Thank you for that intro, Alfie. Hi everyone. Like Alfie mentioned, I am Shaeema. I'm a senior UX architect at Accenture Song. That's really just another way of saying UX designer. And I've been practicing within the product design space for over 11 plus years right now. And today I'll be taking you through some of the AI themes I found when making experiences with AI. So let me share what I have right here. Okay, so the opening slide says, your product manager walks in Monday morning. Can we add AI to this? Everyone's doing it. Your users might benefit, but before you say yes, just because we can build it, how should we? I think this is such an important question. Just because we can build it and because of what we see now currently in the world, how should we build it as South Africans is probably even more of importance in terms of what we're seeing how other countries are using AI. So I'm sure many designers have experienced this question in one form or another, whether it be at work or really even just thinking it from a personal capacity. So yeah, I think it's a very important question to ask, and not only as designers, but whatever your designation is within your team, because of where it is now currently, AI is still being developed. It isn't something that has been, given a binding rule yet, which opens up a lot of possibilities. So whatever you are within your team, don't only think about yourself as a designator within that profession, but think of yourself as a contributor in terms of how you can add value in the space, even if it is now currently via the project or the product that you're currently making. So, like the context says, you're not the only one that's asking this question. I don't think anybody has it cracked yet. But what I'm finding via the research is that it is really reassuring that the whole world is asking this question at the same time. And there's a lot that us as South Africans especially can draw from. So to the right or to the left, you'll see some frameworks. These are some frameworks that I found online that if your institution or your organization doesn't have anything yet, and even now in South Africa, we are still currently developing our AI legislation, there are frameworks that we can actually pull from to help guide you. So these are like the EU AI Act, NIST, OECD, ISO, and even China that's doing some really amazing things with AI legislation. So like I mentioned, we don't have ours binding yet, but that doesn't mean that as designers, we should merely just jump onto the train of AI. We shouldn't at all, how can I say, design in a vacuum. So these frameworks exist, and as South African designers, we can use them. We can literally borrow from them. We can adapt them to the context. We can use them to start shaping what a responsible AI within the South African context would look like, and also for our users. So when you look across all of these frameworks, there are some themes that I've come across, which are fairness and inclusion, transparency, human oversight and control, privacy, accountability, and even redress. So these aren't coincidences. I think Supleet also mentioned that you'll see, familiar themes that you'll find in like the Nielsen-Norman heuristics, some in our other UX methodologies that we use as well. So they're things that matter universally, and these are these bases that we should stick to, even as designers, but as our entire teams that are actually building these AI experiences. So today I'm going to be talking about 3 of them that I tend to experience when I am busy designing experiences with AI. So these are my 3 realities. The first one is transparency. Like, people need to understand what's happening. They don't need to understand everything, but just what matters. The oversight is number 2. AI should help people make better decisions, not make decisions for them. And because of, how can I say, the intelligence of AI, the exposure and the possibilities that it can do, there is the slippery slope in terms of, especially number 2, where you as a designer, your full team, from management straight to whoever's building this product, need to really think about the user, especially number 2. And then accountability. When things go wrong, and they will go wrong, there needs to be some sort of clear path for the user to find their way back. So let's jump into them. The first one is transparency and explainability. So transparency isn't about showing everything. It's about showing what matters. So you'll see 2 little GIFs. The top one is this frantic friction that forms this smooth line. And I think that is what we as designers are. Like, we trained to reduce friction. We make experiences that are easy, that are convenient, and that are enjoyable. But when the system makes decisions on behalf of the users, that silent part, and maybe you've experienced this, that because of the intelligence of AI, the user can easily go from A to Z or D or F really, really fast. And there is the silent part where you could even be a victim to, in terms of designing, that you're not showing users what they need to see. So that gap isn't necessarily simplicity. It's more of it could lead to like this mistrust within the system, that if you show too little information, it creates uncertainty. And if you show too much, it creates overwhelm. So this top GIF is really about, through all the noise, we need to kind of find this balance between context of showing what the user needs to see to where they are going. And they need to, how can I say, they need to know where they are moving from A through to, even if it is Z, that entire experience in the center. They need to understand what's actually happening in terms of how you are designing that experience. So it's not about showing more information. It's about showing the right information at the right time. And the second, or the gift here at the bottom with the eye, with the arrows and with the checkbox, it's really, people really want to see everything, I mean, this is a concept that we as UX designers, we know this already. But what they want is confidence, and it's even more so with AI. So they want enough insight to understand basically what's happening on the screen, enough context to decide whether they agree with it or not, and enough clarity to understand what to do next. So even like these words, transparency and explainability, it might seem so small, but when you start looking as to how to implement this theme within your one particular flow, whether it's sign up, whether it's actually experiencing the product, or whether it's something huge that is going to be used by thousands of people, this transparency and explainability is actually one of the big things that I have found that I need to think about consistently, purely because you've got this how can I describe AI, this ammo of new tech that you can throw into your product. But the question is, should you actually be throwing all of it in just because you can, So let's move on to the next section, which is human oversight and control. The goal isn't to automate decisions, it's to better equip people to make them. So the most valuable experiences aren't the ones where AI decides for us. They are the ones where AI helps the user understand, explore possibilities, challenge assumptions, and ultimately make better informed decisions for themselves. So as designers, our responsibility isn't just to make a design like an intelligent system. When people stay in the loop, I'm sure you've heard that terminology, when people stay in the decision-making role, and they stay, in essence, they stay responsible for the decisions that they are making. So if you automate it away, and that goes back to that example of having that silence in the center of your experience, if you automate that away, you move the risk onto someone who can't see inside of this experience that you've been building. But if you equip them to understand and choose, that is actually safer design, because you're keeping them in the loop. You are giving them enough transparency. You are showing them what they need to show. So as they are making their way through this experience, they know why they are doing things. So you can actually see how these things kind of overlap or intertwine with one another. And here's basically what happens. So understanding creates trust. Control for the users creates trust. When the user understands why they are deciding a certain thing, that creates trust. When they can push back in terms of challenging the system, that also creates trust because you're giving control to them. When the user feels confident about their choices in terms of what you are showing at the right appropriate time for them to make those decisions, that also shows trust. So when these things are all added and when they are used properly by the user, that's when your entire system, your entire flow is actually working really, really well. The next one is about accountability and redress. So good AI experiences aren't designed around getting everything right. They're designed around recovering gracefully when things are wrong. When thinking about this, about accountability, what I notice in the way I work is that there's always this tension. Like I mentioned, AI is like this ammo of intelligence, and there's so many things you can do with it. And your natural inclination, well, I know mine is to design something so out of this world, like so cool, so smart, but at the same time, you need to think about that the smarter the system, the harder it is to question. Like, we have to think about our users in such a sense, in terms of the psychology around what we are noticing now with various different types of AIs, and the, how can I say, like the effects it's having on people now currently. And you find this all in social media, the news, studies that are currently being done, that when something feels authoritative, people assume it's correct. But intelligence doesn't remove the possibility of error. Like, it can make errors even harder to identify or to spot. So your job as the designer isn't just to help build people or build a system that people trust. It's to help them know when to stop and actually question what they are experiencing in that moment. So the lessons that I've actually come to find, especially around accountability and redress, is that accountability doesn't start with when something breaks. In my designation, it starts with when you start designing, but I feel it starts even before design. It starts with your entire team. It starts with leadership. It starts with your product manager. It starts with everyone within your team. When you come up with that first concept of what you actually want to design, it starts at that particular point. Because if your user can't understand what you're trying to make, if you're not building in an opportunity for them to correct themselves or correct the system, if they can't challenge it, if they really just don't know where they are going within the system, then accountability doesn't exist. You're basically just designing something, or you're moving that responsibility to somewhere invincible. So the theme of responsibility as designers, or I'm just speaking from my designation now, but I know there are many other people in different product teams, but the responsibility here is that our job isn't to build systems that never fail. It's to build systems that remain understandable, contestable, and recoverable when they do fail. And then I will leave you with this last slide. We're not building AI systems. We're building experiences where people can see, stay in control, and recover. These three principles are just the beginning. So, like I shown you, the frameworks exist. These are just three that I'm touching on today. But yes, ultimately what I've learned just working in teams that are using AI and building AI products is that upskilling matters. Understanding how AI actually works, what it can do, what it can't do, where it breaks is so important to understand. And if you think that the responsibility only lays on the designer or your design team, then that is so much, how can I say this? That's so much to not only ingest and to be accountable for, that it's not enough for you as one person to learn all together. This isn't just a design responsibility. It's a team responsibility from back-end, front-end, product leadership. Everybody needs to speak the same language about how AI behaves. Because, like, here's the thing. When we're looking at the same product as a team, but all of our vantage points are very different. Like, design is thinking about experience and UX. Front-end is thinking about implementation. Back-end is thinking about data and logic. Leadership is thinking about risk and impact. So that shared understanding is so important because it's not just one. It's not the designer that's building the product alone. It's your team that's all coming together because AI is that big. It's a big thing that the entire team needs to learn, drink, eat, breathe in order to create that experience that you want to give to your users. So, yeah, so the real work actually starts tomorrow. If you are busy doing or using AI, what I would play on, and I heard a little section of Supreet's presentation, is that building a culture where your whole team understands AI, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You just need to know enough to have the same conversation and to keep on having that conversation within your team. So, yeah, that's the end of my presentation. I hope there were some takeaways that the team or the viewers, as you know, these little golden nuggets that you've taken from it. But yeah, there isn't much I could share being at the company that I am at. But when I was preparing this, I was just thinking about what are the things that I'm currently experiencing working with AI and designing for people in South Africa with this ammo or this smart intelligence that we have as a resource now.
Shaeema, thank you so much. Thank you so much for those nuggets, those insights, providing your take on how you've, I guess, adopted and how you're navigating. Appreciate the principles that you're working towards. So thank you so much for all of that info and for sharing. I'd like to just while I'm busy chatting, just ask anyone if there are any questions for Shaeema to please drop them in the chat, to drop them on the Google Docs form. We do have some dedicated time for Q&A before we move on to the next slot. Shaeema, there's a question in relation to the principles that you've provided. Do you see that one or two of these principles becoming heavier at any given time, or like the same with quality, time, effort? You know, that pyramid or cost. Do you see these principles, one of them becoming outweighing the other at any given time?
I would say that it's very much contextual. It depends what the product is doing. As a general rule, let's say, for instance, transparency, it's important. It needs to be there. But say, for instance, if you were to work in some sort of space where there is a lot of information that the actual user really needs to know. And it's so easy to design AI in such a way where it could solve all of that. It could do the thinking for you. It can, it can do the reasoning for you, depending on how you feed this model, how you feed this back end process. And I feel that depending contextually, it plays a large role. It shouldn't be taken away just because it is there. It shouldn't be used in such a way where it removes that original flow or that original way of work. It could, but it really depends. For me, I think the user always needs to stay in the loop. That's such a big one for me. From all of them that I've seen, just keeping the user in the loop as to why you are showing something, why things are there, or if you are doing the work, if AI is doing the heavy lifting, keeping them in the know as to why AI has done it. So that's the one that stands out the most for me, transparency. But I don't see any of the others. I feel like AI is such a thing that we don't necessarily know. We've seen people use it for robots to, finding cures for things like cancer, to, something very simple like customer service, which I think it's being used quite largely for maybe here in South Africa as well. So I think it's very much like contextual. But out of the others, what I can only speak from my experience is that transparency, I think, is such an important one, because there is that very slippery slope of designing AI in such a way where it can do everything for the user, but you need to remind yourself that there are these principles. And what I'm finding is that these AI Act principles, they aren't too far away from heuristics. From, like Supreet mentioned, the NN group, from our various like user-centered design. So there is that familiar like overlap that we always need to think about in the back of our minds.
Thank you, Shaeema. We've got another question here. The question reads: has AI changed the way you think about design itself, or has it simply changed how you work?
It's definitely changed the way how I work. Depending on your organization, the adoption of AI is, I think, something globally that these large companies are fast tracking. The heavy emphasis on knowing how AI works, knowing how it integrates into your workflow is a big push. So jumping onto that in terms of adoption, I think is such a good thing to do anyway. So it's definitely from a working workflow perspective, and changing my perspective, it has definitely done that. I mean, I don't use AI in such a way where I'll have random conversations with it. Because the way I think, very analytical in the way I think. So I tend to use it to, how can I say, I tend to use it in such a way where it elevates what I currently know. To me, AI is always a tool. It will only be a tool. It's not this. The marketing of AI has been done really well, where people think, especially the people that we serve, that we are building for. It's got this a persona that it can do anything, that it's fully autonomous, but we aren't there. I believe AI is only, the tool is only as good as the user. Like, what you input is exactly what you'll get out. And I think to a certain degree, you should actually use AI to help elevate the way you think. I know that's how I'm using it. For instance, this presentation, I actually asked AI to analyze or to tell me how I think about it, how I'm using it, or what are my themes that I keep on bringing out. And the three themes that it found was basically these are the things that you're focusing on. These are the way you are answering or interrogating or assuming the flows that you are busy building with. So I think that's a really good way of using AI to understand who you are. And I've been doing it in the arena of my work and what I can do to actually elevate my thinking a bit more, to basically make better products and also just thinking about it.
Shaeema, thank you so much. Those are the questions. I do want to just call out if you would like to connect with Shaeema. We've dropped a LinkedIn link in the chat. Please connect with her. And I'm not sure if Alfie mentioned it, but I mean, I couldn't do the intro, so Alfie was doing it. So apart
It's all
from
good.
the research and the architect stuff and the designing and the AIs and the digital stuff, you can also just connect with Shaeema if you want to work on an engine. If you want to work on an engine or take apart a vehicle in a car, that's her passion. She loves working on cars and working on engines and stripping it and fixing it and putting it together or breaking it apart. So yeah, connect with her. She's an awesome person, and always willing to connect and share. Shaeema, thank you so much again, for your time and for sharing what you have